What's up guys, Les Gaddis here, and today we're going to be talking about Scatter. It's a plugin for Davinci Resolve that emulates filters. So if you ever shoot with Promise, Black Satin, Glimmer Glass, any type of filters, this plugin is supposed to emulate those and be pretty accurate. So the cool thing about it is you can actually emulate the intensity as well, so the different strengths. So it's not just that it's one setting that is Glimmer Glass. There'll be Glimmer Glass quarter, half, eighth, and a 1. But I wanted to test the accuracy of it to see how close it was.
All right, so let's go ahead and go to our effects, our open effects menu, and scroll all the way down, and we'll see the Scatter, a plugin from Video Village. We will throw that on this clip and then go to our effects page, and then you'll see that we have, you have the source. So there's all these different camera sources. I shot with S-Log3. All these different filters. You have Black Frost, Black Promise, Classic, Fog, Glimmer Glass, Hollywood Black Magic, Low-Con, Mitchell Diffusion, Pearlescent, Promist, Radiant Soft, Satin, Scatter, Smoke, and Soft Effects. So there's a ton of these filters, and you have them in different strengths. So you have them in quarter, half, 1/8, depending on the filter. Sometimes that changes. So I'm going to put 1 on, and you can see the difference in the intensity versus a half. So that's really cool, and it makes it really fast and easy to get the strengths. So I'm going to turn it back to 1, and then I'm going to bump up the intensity so you can kind of see what it's doing. So then there's the focal length as well. So you can pick your lens that you're shooting on, and that's based off of a Super 35 sensor. So I was shooting full frame, so you have to do a little bit of math there. So there's highlight recovery, which is very cool. And you can affect the radius, the saturation, and the cutoff. So turn on the highlight adjustment, and I can enable that. And then, there's all these different filters, the gang strength, red, green, blue. Then you can affect the edge, so I can make it vignette, so you can kind of see the bottom. It vignettes it. I can turn it back to mirror, and then also too, there's a repeated, which is kind of like a mix in between the vignette and mirrored. And then you can affect the blend as well. And then your help information, which has your software information, license, and all that stuff. But that's basically it. And you can do this in your edit page or in Fusion.
I was actually pretty impressed with the tool. There's a few things that I was just like, okay, it's not the best in this particular situation, but let me give you a few reasons why you would want to get this versus not get it. You get a ton of different filter settings, and it's definitely, if you're using it, it's going to make your footage look a whole lot better. So if you're a cinematographer and you want to build a look, and you live in a small town and you're trying to figure out what a Glimmer Glass or Black Satin or Black Promise might look like with a certain sensor and with a certain lens, but you don't have access to it. Well, if you have Scatter, then you can kind of play around with it and get a good feeling about what it might look like. Even though it might not be completely accurate, it's close enough. Second use, if you're a cinematographer and you get behind on set and you're trying to figure out how to get shots, and you're like, oh, okay, well, like the filter case is a mile away, and then we need to get this shot and move on, let's just shoot it. Well, you can put your filter in post and it'll match what you've been getting, because it'll have a close enough bloom factor, halation, and all that to make it believable. And thirdly, the cost. So if you're shooting with matte boxes and you're using 4x5 filters, those can be upwards of $500. The software is expensive at $500, but you get an entire slew of filters and settings plus the fact that it's customizable as well. And what I mean by that, it brings up my next point, besides the price being a little bit expensive, but still you get a lot for what you pay for, is the fact that because scatter is so customizable, you can pick if you want the filter to be on your entire image, or I mean, you can cut it in half. If you like what it does to a person's skin, but you don't like what it does to the lights, you can mask that out, which you can't necessarily do with a practical filter. So there's a ton of flexibility with scatter as a plugin that I think is useful. Would I use it? Yeah, absolutely. Do I prefer the look of real filters? I do, and I like the fact that it bakes the image in. And that's just a personal preference, because me being a cinematographer, I really like control over the image. So if I want it to look a certain way, then being able to put a filter in and knowing that it's going to be exactly the same every single time, that is something that I look for, is consistency and repeatability. So some of the cons of scatter, there's not many, but it's not, if you're trying to completely match a filter with scatter, it's going to take some work. You can do it, but don't think that as soon as you buy the plugin that you can just take a black Pro Mist, stick it on your footage, and then have an exact black Pro Mist filter, and it's going to match perfectly. You're going to have to tweak it. There's settings. You can get it really, really close, but it's not like completely accurate. And what I found is that it's mostly not accurate in the lens flares in the way that like a hard source will bloom. So like for instance with Glimmer Glass, if you look at the flashlight, there's a certain type of bloom effect that glass optics will give you that scatter just can't recreate. It really does well with skin tones, and it does well with, you know, like realistic looking halation, but being able to bloom those highlights is something that it just doesn't do, and it needs a little bit of help with. I mean, I think scatter is fantastic. The only thing that kind of worries me as a cinematographer is the fact that, you know, if a colorist, if someone else that, you know, if you're passing off your image to someone else, then they have complete control over being able to put certain filters on your image that you may or may not want. So it's great in the flexibility, and it's close enough. Like, one thing that I want to stress is with the cinematography, I believe that, you know, like, accuracy is important, but it's not everything. Cinematography is about feeling, and what scatter does well is it feels like real filters. So anytime that I look at a filter and then I look at an image that has a scatter filter on it, it's hard for me to tell the difference. And I have a really trained eye. So if it can do that and it feels right, then you get my stamp of approval. So with that being said, scatter, check it out. The link will be listed below. If you found this helpful, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments, email me, Google me. Yeah, I mean, scatter, I think is a fantastic tool. Yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button.